Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Carlisle Cult Cinema Club. And this evening I am joined by the beautiful Debra Lamb, and we're doing a rough guide to Debra Lamb's work. And Debra has been in the industry since she was just a young lady, and she started off, her first film was Stripped to Kill.
Yes,
back
yes,
in
that's correct.
1987.
Yes, that was my first feature film.
And I mean, how old were you when you first moved to LA? Because you were born in Oregon. So how old were you when you first moved to LA?
Well, I was born in Portland, Oregon, so I was there till I was 14. And I do believe that I was still 14. I hadn't quite turned 15 yet when we moved to Los Angeles from Portland, Oregon.
Right. And
so
how long?
I had 1 year of high school in Portland, Oregon. I was a freshman in Portland, Oregon. So we moved during the summer. So the next school year, I was actually at Beverly Hills High School for a year, and then Santa Monica High School for 2 years, and going to, we were very poor. We grew up poor. It was me, my mom, and my sister, my little sister. And my mom moved us down to LA, and we had a hard time finding a place. We were actually homeless for a little bit. We did receive charity from a couple different churches, so we were able to stay in a couple places until we finally found a place to live. And my mom found a guest house behind a house in Beverly Hills. So I actually ended up, excuse me, I ended up going to Beverly Hills High School that first year we were in LA, along with, all the rich kids. And I was one of the poorest kids in the school. I was wearing Goodwill clothes. I had clothes that didn't fit right. I had a pair of pants that the zipper wouldn't stay up. I mean, it was really sad. And, we had food stamps and the whole works and the whole thing of that. And then my mom met and married someone so there in LA, and then we moved to Santa Monica High School. And I mean, we didn't move to, I'm sorry, we moved to Santa Monica.
Yeah.
So the next 2 years I went to Santa Monica High School. And then after, I was always taking dance and drama throughout, since I was a kid in school. And in high school, I was taking dance and drama. And so when I graduated high school, I decided that I wanted to pursue acting professionally. And a couple years after high school, I enrolled at the Van Mar Film Academy, and then I started getting acting roles soon after that. So that's the beginnings. But yes, Stripped to Kill 1 was my first feature film that I was in. And a couple years later, I ended up also acting in Stripped to Kill 2, where I had a much larger role than Stripped to Kill 1. I mean, I'm in there for a few seconds in Stripped to Kill 1, but I was also the body double for the lead actor. It was a male actor who was playing both roles of a brother and sister. So when I was on set I was in a dance contest. I was auditioning in the film along with Kay Lenz, and a couple people saw me from the back, and I had really big black curly hair, and from the back, they thought I was the lead actor when he had his wig on, when he was dressed up as his twin sister. The back, they thought I was him. So the director saw that. So she had me do the body doubling for the lead actor when he was playing the sister. So that was my first gig, and then of course it went on from there.
Matt, I've got to say, I watched Strip to Kill today, and you look very disappointed when you lose out to Kaylen's.
Oh, well, of course I'm acting. I mean,
That's it.
It was part of the role, is that I was disappointed that it's like, oh, I didn't win.
No,
Oh,
but compared to the other girls just didn't look too bothered, but you looked really disappointed. The other girls just kind of were like just standing there, kind of. But you looked really disappointed compared to them. It's a great film, with a nice twist ending.
Well, I was going to acting school, so.
No, definitely. But I'm just saying, compared to the other girls who were kind of just,
just standing there.
No real, there was no. But you're acting. The other girls just kind of,
just standing there.
Take the money and run.
Well, did you happen to watch Strip to Kill 2?
I didn't get to see Strip to Kill 2, but I will be hunting down.
Yeah, you'll have to watch Strip to Kill 2.
I have seen it many years ago.
Okay.
Probably when it was first out. I've seen the original when it was first out. As a young, hot-blooded teenage boy back then, I'll have been 14.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's.
There we go. Ideal for us young lads. But 1987 was an absolutely cracking year for yourself. Along with Strip to Kill, you were in RoboCop.
Yes.
Which I'll let you tell the story on that. What happened with RoboCop?
Oh, okay. Yes, I was hired to do one of the commercials on RoboCop. The guy, the goofy guy that says, "Oh, I'd buy that for $1."
Yeah.
People were saying that catchphrase for decades.
Oh, forever.
People are still saying, "I'd buy that for $1." Well,
that's right.
In the film, you only see the one commercial, and they play the commercial several times throughout the film. You see the clips of that commercial. Well,
yeah,
they actually shot, I don't know how many of those commercials, but I know it was a few. So I was fortunate enough to be chosen for one of the commercials, and I was directed by Paul Verhoeven, and that was very exciting because back then, I was fully aware of who Paul Verhoeven was, so I was really stoked to get to work with him.
Yeah.
And so I was in one of those commercials, and we were pounding pizza dough, me and this other actress, and we were topless. So we're pounding the pizza dough behind the guy. It was in front. I forget the actor's name, but he was in front saying whatever he was saying.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so in between takes, they were changing lighting or moving the camera or something. So I was standing there, and I knew how to juggle. So I made little balls from the pizza dough, and I started juggling pizza dough balls. Yeah. And I was juggling them just during the break. And Paul Verhoeven looked over at me and said, "Oh, I love that. Do that." So then I did that for the commercial. I was juggling pizza dough balls. So the commercial, that commercial ended up not being used in the final cut of the film, but on the Blu-ray, there's a special edition Blu-ray. I don't know if it's on the DVD also, but I wouldn't doubt that it's also on a DVD, but it's on the Blu-ray. I know that for sure. And in the extras, in the deleted scenes, you can see the whole commercial.
So there you go, folks. If you want to see Debra's scene, go to the deleted scenes in the Blu-ray, and there you go. You'll see Debra's scene in that. And also, 1987. I mean, it was a cracking year for you. Death Row game show where you had
Yeah.
a bit of a bigger role. You played the hostess with the mostess, Shanna Shallow.
Shallows.
Shanna, yeah,
Shauna Shallow.
Shallows. That's it. It's a
I was
tongue
the game
twister.
show hostess. Yeah. Well, excuse me. So yeah, that was a really fun role. I didn't say a thing, I didn't have any actual lines. I just did a lot of this. you know. But yeah, it was a comedic role. It was a very popular comedy that my dear friend Mark Pirro directed, and I was lucky enough to actually get to work with him 30 years later. I think it was more than 30 years later. I worked with him. We shot a film back in 2020 called The Deceased Won't Desist, which is out now. It's on Amazon and Tubi. And I think it's on Amazon. I know for sure it's on Tubi. And it's a comedy. It's about a rich old guy who has his family members he has a group of people all meet at his cabin. I play the widow, and he has his mother, and then a few other, a handful of characters show up at this isolated cabin, so that the will could be read. And so that was so much fun to get to work with him. Also John McCafferty, who was starring in Death Row Game Show, he was in the film, so I got to work with him again. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, brilliant!
Did you happen
I
to
haven't
see
seen that one. No, but I will check it
I don't
out.
know. Do you guys get Tubi out there where you are?
We don't get Tubi, but I do get Amazon.
I don't know that it's on Amazon. I don't think it is. So I'm not sure how else. Well, I think don't you have your ways of finding films?
Well, there's ways of finding films, so I'll be finding. There's a few, as I've been doing research, that I've not seen that I thought I need to see that. I've watched. I got a few. Did get a few watched. Disciples was another I got watched, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Oh, you did see it. This, by the way, is coffee, because it's morning for me and it's evening for you. So good evening to you. Good morning. Good morning to me.
That's right. Good morning and good evening. Yeah, it's 5 to 6 here.
Yeah, it's a little after 9:30 for me, or yeah.
Yeah, so
anyway,
it's getting on
in the morning.
But
that
yeah,
is.
that's yeah. So
you were what were you saying now? You were talking about Disciples.
Yeah, I watched it today. That was another one I watched today.
Oh, you did.
Yes. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, well,
we'll
thank you.
That.
That film is actually being re-edited, and it's going to be re-released in the near future. I'm not sure exactly when it'll be re-released. Right. I know that there's a new edit to make the film a little more cohesive as far as the story, and just smooth out some rough spots. And the director is Joe Hollow. I know that was the last I've heard, that there's a new edit on that, and that it will be re-released, and as well as the other film that I worked on with him, which is called Blood Story. That also is being re-edited and will be re-released. So as soon as that happens, I'll let everybody know to go and check out.
Now I've got a Blood Story to watch. I have got a Blood Story to watch.
Okay.
But I haven't got it watched yet. But it is. Okay. I've got it, and I will be giving it a watch as well.
Okay, great, great.
I just with what I was telling you before we started the podcast, it just knocked us back what stuff I needed to watch. So
You
I'm
were
a bit of
having
a scared, but
you were having yourself a Debra Lamb marathon.
that's it. Of the last 2 days, it's been Debra Lamb films all the way.
Wow,
So
wow, wow. I'm really flattered. So which ones did you watch? You watched Disciples, you watched
I watched Disciples. I
Strip to
watched
Kill,
Strip to
the first
Kill,
Strip to Kill.
first one. I got Disciples to Kill, Death Row Game Show,
Oh, okay. You
Invisible
just
Maniac.
watched Death Row Game Show. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And well, I just rewatched it, and Invisible Maniac was a rewatch as well.
Okay, and that one for people out there who don't know, the Invisible Maniac was what did they call it? They redid it. They what's the word? You know, they
Oh yeah, they remade it.
yeah, they spoofed what do you call it when they make it like
A
look
parody.
really good? Huh?
Oh, the MHD.
Yeah, well, they made it into 4K. They
Yeah,
re-released it.
that's the one I've got.
They did, oh, from Vinegar Syndrome.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay,
Same with me
yeah.
Death Row Game Show Blu-ray. That's from them.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they had that. I didn't know they had Death
Yeah,
Row
yeah,
Game. Okay.
yeah. But
Okay,
I've got Death
that's
Row
good
Game
to
Show
know.
on. I've got Death Row Game Show on VHS as well a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah,
So
so
because it's
for
different
people out
covers.
there, for anybody out there who's interested, Death Row Game Show is available through Vinegar
On
Syndrome
Blu-ray, Vinegar Syndrome. Yeah.
and the Invisible Maniac. They had me a couple years ago, they had me go down to LA to do an interview for the extras. And you know what? I have a copy from Vinegar Syndrome and I still haven't watched my interview segment. Did you see it? Did you happen to see it?
I didn't watch. I haven't watched all the extras because I just had the file. Because what I do with all my Blu-rays is I get them ripped, so I've just got the file of the films, so I can store them on a hard drive.
Oh, I see. I see.
So
Well, check
so
it
it's
out.
easier for me to access. Yeah, no, I will. I'll grab it out and
Yeah.
watch the interview. But
Yeah, I still
also
have to. I haven't even watched it yet. What?
back to 1987, you were also in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, yes, yes. This is a story I've told many, many, many times. So I'll just try to do the brief version. So I worked with
Yeah, no
John
problem.
Candy. I worked with John Candy and Steve Martin and John Hughes, of course, was the director. And I was chosen out of it was in a nightclub scene. It was set in the scene was set in a strip club. So I was one of the dancers in this club and they needed somebody to improv a scene and I was chosen to do this, which I was, very excited about. And we did this whole scene with John Candy coming up to me, and we just had the most ridiculous conversation. And then Steve Martin comes up to me, and then we were just talking, and then when the scene was over, literally everyone, the whole crew, the cast, everyone there, John Hughes just burst into laughter. They were all just busting up, and they just all thought it was just really funny. So I was invited a few months later. I don't know how long later, but 6 months, whatever it was. I was invited to a screening at Paramount. So, and then at the door, they were handing out these one sheets with the cast and crews, not the crew, but the cast. And I think actually some of the crew was on there too, but it had everyone's names. And so my name was on there. And so I was really thrilled. I was there with my first boyfriend. And so we sat down and a person behind me tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Oh, I recognize you." And it turned out he was one of the editors on the film. And he recognized me and he said, "Oh my God, that scene is so funny. So funny." He said, "You are hilarious." So we saw the film, and my scene should have been toward the end of the film. And the section where it should have been came and went, and it wasn't there. So then after the film ended, the editor behind me said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He said, "I had no idea that scene got cut out. It was in there when he was working on it, and he didn't know it got cut out." So he felt really bad for me. And of course I went out to the parking lot and I was like, "Oh," I was crying. I thought that was going to be my big break, being in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But here's the thing. I've had two people, my one friend, Michelle Nesk, who's the director who I worked with back in 2019. I worked with her. And another director who I can't think of his name. I'd have to look it up. I know he's from New Zealand, and I know he worked on a film starring Linnea Quigley, and sorry, I can't remember his name. But he happened to be in Canada. When she saw it, she saw me in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles in Canada when she was living in Canada at the time, and she saw me, and this is a long time ago, and she videotaped Planes, Trains, and Automobiles off the TV in Canada with my scene in it. And then we worked together, and she told me that she saw me in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And I was like, "What? How is that possible? I got cut out." And she said, "In Canada." She says, "I have it on tape." Well, then it turned out that there was some flood where her stuff was stored and the tape was destroyed.
Oh,
So
that's a shame.
yeah. Well, after a year or two after she told me she had seen it on TV in Canada, the director messaged me, and he said, "I didn't know you were in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles." And I said, "Well, I was and I wasn't, I did it, but my scene got cut out." And he goes, "No, I just saw you." He says, "I just saw you." He was at a pub in Canada, and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was playing on the television, and he wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to it. He was playing pool, I think he said. But he saw my scene on TV at that pub in Canada. And this is just a couple years ago, or maybe a few years ago. So he tried to contact the television station to find out about this copy of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And apparently he didn't get any kind of response from the TV station. But it's out there. I mean, I have two separate people who saw it years apart, like many, many years apart, both seeing it in Canada on TV. So it exists. And then they re-released it on Blu-ray a couple years ago. And I was really excited because they were going to have all these extras. And I was really, really hoping, along with everyone else who knew about this scenario, who knew that I am in, my scene is in a version somewhere. It exists. So I was really hoping that scene would be included in the extras, but then it wasn't.
Ah, that's a shame.
Yeah.
It'll be someone will have it somewhere on a tape or something. It'll be knocking about. It will resurface one day, I think.
It exists somewhere. So
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So from there, you were in Out Cold as well, briefly.
Oh yeah, I was in Out Cold. So there's
which has got, I mean, John Lithgow and Terry Garr, fantastic.
Yeah, so I did a film called Out Cold. What year was that?
That was it 89?
Okay. And
89.
Well, there's another film called Out Cold. So if you look up Out Cold on IMDb, the other Out Cold will probably come up first. It's there's a skiing, it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
snowboarding film. Well, that's not it. So the Out Cold that I'm in was, what was it, 89? What did you say?
89, yeah. John,
89.
1989.
Yes. So I went up to, I don't know if it was Big Bear. It might have been Big Bear. I drove up to Big Bear. We were shooting at a mountain lodge, and it was cold. So I don't remember what time of year it was, but it was chilly. And I worked with John Lithgow and Terry Garr and Randy Quaid, and we were all having dinner together, and they were so nice. The director was super nice. Everybody was so nice, and they wanted me to stay another day, and I couldn't because I had another gig I had to go to. And
Yeah,
they were offering me more and more money to stay, and I should have taken it. I should have forgotten about the other thing, because the other thing that I drove to do the next day turned out to be a disaster. It was
oh,
some disaster. Oh, it was some stupid commercial, and it was just the whole thing was a disaster. And I never ever saw it. I never saw this commercial. And yeah, so I should have stayed. But I was telling them, I'm sorry, I'm committed, so I'm not, I've never been somebody to not show up when I'm where I'm supposed to be.
yeah.
So I mean, it was against my ethics of just blowing off a job that I had the next day. But in this case, I should have. But hindsight is 2020, right?
Yeah, well, this is it. This is it. And also in 1989, you done Born as Born.
Oh, yeah, Born.
Yeah, Merchants
Yeah,
of Death, it's also called.
it's also called Merchants of Death. That was with PJ Souls and
Russ
Riff,
Tamblyn, William
Riff
Smith.
Coogan. Riff Coogan. I was having a brain fart. Riff Coogan and Bill Smith and Russ Tamblyn. That's it, Russ Tamblyn. And oh yeah, that had so many big stars. Amanda Blake, right? And and when you were mentioning Disciples, that has everyone in it. I mean, that has
Oh, it has.
Tony Todd and Camden Toy, Brink Stevens, Linnea Quigley, Debbie Rochon. It stars Tom uh, Loadwith. Shoot, is that his last name? Tom Loadwith. I think I might be screwing up his last name. I'm sorry, Tom. Yeah, and Loadwith.
Angus Scrim.
Loadwick, that's it. And who else is in that one? Bill Moseley, and yeah, and I get to kill
Angus
Tony
Scrim.
Todd. Oh my God.
You do.
Thank you. Angus Scrimm. Yeah, how can we forget him? And I, worked with everybody. It was so wonderful. And I get to kill Tony Todd. That's my claim to fame. I get to kill Tony Todd in Disciples. But again, that one's it's actually going to be pulled off of everywhere, and
Right.
and the new version's going to be,
I'll be put back up.
yeah. Apparently it's a much better edit, so we'll see.
Also, I mean, going back to after Born, there was Beverly Hills Vamp with
Right.
our good friend Eddie Deason and Britt
Yes.
Eklund as well.
Yes, and Michelle Bauer, and
Yeah.
the other actress is, I know who it is. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. See, you think you have problems with names, but
Yeah.
but one of my very favorite directors of all time, Fred Olen Ray, directed that. But I had already worked with him on another film called Warlords, where I had a small role, and I worked with Michelle Bauer on that film as well. It's a post-apocalyptic film. And then he, brought me back for Beverly Hills Vamp, which I think Beverly Hills Vamp and The Invisible Maniac are what I'm best known for as far as all my films from the 80s and 90s. Those are the films where I have
Right.
the biggest fan following for those films. People love
And they're
Beverly
both
Hills
great
Vamp.
fun.
Well,
They're
Beverly
both
Hills
great
Vamp
fun.
is a comedy. I mean, to call it horror, it's a horror comedy, but it's a comedy. It's just funny.
Yeah.
It's got Eddie Deason, it's got not Tim Conway. What's his name? Conway. The the son of Tim Conway.
Oh, right. Tim Conway Jr.
Oh, he is Tim Conway Jr. Okay.
Yeah,
I
Tim
thought I
Conway
couldn't
Jr.
remember. And there's
Yeah.
I have a couple friends in that who are in that, and yeah, I mean that was just great fun to work on. And Brett Eklund, as you said, Brett Eklund, and she was lovely, just so sweet. And yeah, so and speaking of, well, I mentioned Britt Eklund, sorry. One of my favorite films for around that time period was Evil Spirits, and I think that's 1990. And
Yeah,
that
I've
was
got that down.
yeah,
91.
that was directed 91. Okay, that was directed by Gary Graver, who I worked with on Beverly Hills Vamp. He was the cinematographer on Beverly Hills Vamp. Also,
Right.
the other Fred Olin Ray film I worked on was Mob Boss. That's also with Eddie Deason again. And I do
Yeah.
believe, I think Gary Graver worked on that as well. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure about that one, but he probably did. Anyway, Gary Graver was one of Fred Olin Ray's closest friends, and he was doing Evil Spirits. And so I was thrilled to be working on that because that starred Karen Black and Michael Berryman and Virginia Mayo. For people who don't know who Virginia Mayo is, she's not like one of the well-known horror actors. She was a bona fide movie star. She starred in films with Humphrey Bogart. She was a huge star back in the 40s. And yeah, so she was in it, and Hoke Howell and Burt Remsen. These are all big time character actors. Younger people are not going to know who these people are, but
No, Martine Beswick.
Martine Beswick, how can I forget her? She was a big star. She was, from Russia with Love, right? The James Bond film.
And well, and Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
Oh, that's
she was
right.
a Hammer girl.
Yep. She's a Hammer girl. So Martine Beswick, I know she's got a huge following, and of course,
She has.
Yep, and of course, Karen Black, which, well, I'll do a little spoiler. This is a spoiler, but the film is hard to find, so I'll go ahead and do the spoiler. I play her mute daughter, and you don't find out that I'm her daughter till the very end of the film. And but it was such a pleasure working with her. She's amazing. And so if anybody can get a hold of a copy of Evil Spirits, that is one of my personal favorites from the 80s and 90s.
I'm going to go and see if I can find a copy of Evil Spirits somehow. I mean, back to 1990, you worked with David Lynch, Wild at Heart.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody was calling in, so I didn't hear the last thing you said.
All right. I was saying, back to 1990, you worked with David Lynch on Wild at Heart as well.
Yes, and that was fantastic to work on. It's one of my favorite films. And I was this is still towards the beginning of my career, and I had
well, that's it. You've done so much, and you've only been acting in Hollywood since '87. This is only 1990, and you've done all these iconic films. It's great. It's brilliant.
Well, I actually started, like, I think it was mid 80s, like around, but because it takes a couple years for something to actually get released, like Strip to Kill didn't get released till 87. but we actually shot it like in 85. But yeah, I mean, you're correct. So I started in the mid 80s and I did a lot in the late 80s, early 90s. I did quite a lot, and including Wild at Heart, like you mentioned. And that was a, you know, I was the fire eater in that, because at that time I was a fire eater. I mean, I wasn't a fire eater, but I had the ability to fire eat. So
Yeah.
I did that on a couple of films, on a handful of films. I did some fire eating. So like Wild
You've
at
done that
Heart
on Point Break.
and Point Break. Well, since Point Break's on TV a lot, especially during the summer, and I'm in California, so Point Break's on TV in the summer, like almost every summer you can see Point Break on TV. And so for years and years and years, all my friends are like, I saw you on Point Break, and I'm the fire eater in that. And you know, and I was known for having, you know, fairly long black hair in the 80s and 90s, but uh in the in the in the early 90s I went blonde. So in Point Break I have this short curly, I was going through my Madonna phase, so I had
Yeah.
this curly blonde hair in Point Break. But people and friends of mine who don't have any idea that I'm in it, they'll be watching it and they'll see me and they'll be like, oh my God, I just saw you on Point Break. So that's just a fun thing, you know. And while I was there filming, you know, I'm in this scene where Keanu Reeves takes Lori Petty, brings her to the beach house for a party
Yeah.
uh, for Patrick Swayze's party. So, you know, as they enter the house, I spit fire in front of their faces. So while we were doing that scene, you know, I'm standing there in between takes, and Keanu Reeves was so sweet. He was so sweet. He was asking me, oh, how do you do that? And, you know, I was just telling him the technique of spitting fire and eating fire. And he was just so nice. And this is my dream, knowing what a nice guy he is. You know, you see all these videos of him just being
Yeah. Yeah.
Keanu Reeves, being super nice. So my dream is to someday be somewhere and be somewhere where he is and be able to say, I was in Point Break with you. And that was my like all-time favorite memory of working on a film, is I got to talk to Keanu Reeves.
Which is brilliant. I mean, he does come across as such a nice bloke.
Yeah, I know,
And
right? He was, and he was really nice to me. And you know who was
excellent.
really nice? Who was really nice? Nicest person who you think is this way, but it is true. He is actually this nice, is John Candy.
Oh, I
You know,
couldn't believe that.
oh yes, he was so sweet. He was so sweet. And after the whole scene, after we were done shooting for the day, I really needed to use a phone badly. This is before cell phones. Nobody
Yeah.
had cell phones. Nobody had car phones. Nobody had cell phones. There was no such thing. And he let me come into his trailer and use his phone. Oh, and then that's when he gave me. So the first thing I did on For Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was, I forgot this part, is that I was hired as a model to model for his character, because his character sells shower curtain rings, the rings, not the shower curtains, just the rings.
Yeah.
They made a calendar for it with sexy pinup girls. And so I'm in this calendar, and he gave me the calendar and he signed it, and and because I don't think I had the calendar. Yeah, I didn't bring the calendar with me. I think he gave it to me. And then Steve Martin came into his trailer. I think he was a little annoyed that I was in there, but anyway, so he came in, and John Candy introduced me, and John Candy made him sign my calendar for me. And of course, John
That's
Candy.
brilliant.
So I have it. And, stupid me, I never did like really properly protect it. So it's really faded, but you can still see it. I have it in a cupboard, but that is my most cherished memento from any film I've ever done is this calendar.
Calendar.
And it has his character's name on the front of it. And yeah, so that's really cool. So I've worked with some amazing people, and the films that I had just tiny parts in, that I got to work with like really big stars, they were always so nice. They were all, and that all those films were all towards the beginning of my career, where I got to work with like really big stars, where I would have this like minute part, like I was the fire eater, or in Out Cold, I'm just a dancer in this lodge. But they were all so nice. I mean, they're super nice. In fact, Out Cold, I was literally, which is why I should have stayed on that film set. Who knows what would have happened? But everybody was so nice. I had my own trailer. They were so sweet. And I was sitting next to John Lithgow and Terry Garr for meals and dinner, and and they were everyone was just so down to earth and so nice. And I really was treated like a queen on that set, and I just was nobody. I was just a dancer on it, but it's such a fun thing when you're just basically glorified background and you're being treated so nicely, so I mean, and as far as I'm concerned, everybody working on a film, whether their background or whether they're just PAs or craft service or any of the crew or any of the actors, everyone to me is equal. Everyone working on that film is working hard and working to bring the project, the film, to life. And so I love it when I work with such cool people. If you don't mind, I'd like to jump ahead to more present day things. Unless, was there something else you wanted to talk about more specific?
I was going to mention that you were also in the very first episode of Star Trek Enterprise.
That's right. I was in the pilot, and unfortunately, I got cut out of that one too. But there's an article.
No.
I know, just my luck. So I was a fire-eating alien. They made an alien head on me, which was magnificent, and I couldn't take any pictures. And they watch you too. They're watching. If you, that's back in the day. That's back in the day. There were cell phones, because I did have a cell phone, but I had to leave it behind. We got ready in one place, and then they transported us to the actual set. And so you have to leave everything behind. You can't, no pictures or anything. So there are no pictures. There's one picture in an article that's called, I think it's called, you can see it on Google. It's called, if you look up Debra Lamb, that article should come up. If you keep scrolling, you can find it. It's called Actors Whose Scenes Were Cut from Star Trek. So it's a lot of actors from all sorts of different Star Trek shows, all the different episodes. I'm included in there. There's a picture, but unfortunately, because I'm fire eating, you see my fire torches, but you don't see the alien makeup and the alien head, because my neck is all the way back. So all you see is this much of me and my head back and the torches in my hands. And that's all you see. You don't see it, which is a shame. So that was brilliant. I had this huge head, a big head that kind of curved back, and they put makeup, like little tracks all over my face and all up and down my spine. It was gorgeous makeup. I remember exactly what it looks like. And then I had this cute little skimpy outfit on, and oh yeah. Well, anyway, that whole entire scene got cut. So it wasn't like just me that got cut. This whole scene of them going into a shanty town. You know how in all Star Treks they always end up beaming down to a planet, and it's it's in like Hellboy too, the first Hellboy where he goes or the second Hellboy, not the first Hellboy, the second Hellboy with
where they're in the Fed,
they're in that,
Luke Gosling,
where
yeah,
they have all the characters and all the different aliens from everywhere in the little town, and it's like a seedy part of town, and so they had one of those scenes where they're in a seedy part of town. They're in the red light district of the alien, this planet. So anyway, they had all sorts of really really cool different kinds of aliens, but that would have been so cool. But yeah, so I mean, I just have the memory of what it looked like, and I don't have any pictures. Sorry.
That's a shame. And then I was going to next talk about Disciples, which obviously you were also a producer on. And
yes.
I've got to say, it did have a very kind of 80s feel to it.
Yes, it did.
Even though it was made in 2014, it was released in 2014. It kind of had that 80s vibe, especially with a lot of the older actors and things being in it.
Well, like you said, Angus
great
Grimm,
queens.
Yep, Tony Todd, Brink Stevens, Linnea Quigley, Debbie Sean Me, Bill Moseley, all these people, all these iconic horror actors. Yeah, it did. You're right. I think it did too. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the re-edited version, because apparently it's a much better version. So I can't wait to see it.
Oh, well, I mean, I enjoyed it. So, I mean, I'll look forward to seeing, the remake or the re-edit, should I say?
The re-edited version. Yeah. And A Blood Story too. But I wanted to.
Well, yeah. Well, I was going to say a blood Story, which you were also a producer on as well, which was the next film that came out after Disciples.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's another one I've got it to watch. So I'm looking forward to watching A Blood Story.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's still out there or not. Like I said, that one's also being re-edited and going to be re-released. I don't know what the timeline is on that. I'm assuming within the next couple of years, at least.
Yeah.
That's the last thing I've heard on those.
On that one, and then you were in My Friend and Yours, Jane Balsamo's The Lynch.
Oh. Yeah.
I love James. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun to work with. I love Jim. And but if you don't mind, I want to kind of skip ahead a little, because if we just go through all my films, or I mean, I know you're going through the highlights. I know you're going through the highlights, but I mean, we'll be here all day. But I want to I was talking about how wonderful it is to have worked on those big budget films with the big stars, and they were also wonderful, and it was so nice to just to be treated so well. But I wanted to add to that in saying that some of my directors who are friends of mine, who I've worked with even more in the recent years, are just the most wonderful people, well, of course, Mark Pirro, who I got to work with again a few years back on The Deceased Won't Desist. I mean, we lost touch for so long, and then we got back in touch a few years before The Deceased Won't Desist was shot. But he's been a really good friend of mine. So, like I said, I was so happy to get to work with him. And then, but I wanted to mention Monty Light, who I worked with on Blood Covered Chocolate, which was just recently released. I think it was, I know the date says one thing, but it didn't actually come out till earlier this year it came out.
It's 2022, it says. I've got written down.
It says that. It says 2022, but it actually didn't come out till this year. Yeah, so
right. So it was a little bit late.
I want to give a big shout out to Monty because I love Monty so much, and I'm so happy I finally got to work with him because we've been such good friends for so long, and I just think he's just such a brilliant filmmaker, and I'm so happy for him because I had a wonderful experience working on Blood Covered Chocolate, and you know that has a bunch of people who are well known in the independent horror.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And just like Mike Ferguson and Joe Altieri was brilliant, and Megan Deanna
Christine
Smith, brilliant.
what's her name? Christine
and Ellen Udy. I love Ellen Udy so much. She's one of my dear friends. I love her so much. I was so happy I finally got to work with her. I think she's brilliant in Blood Covered Chocolate, but Monty Monty is now putting his latest film, Bittertooth. It's being put out there into film festivals, and I know that Ellen Udy is brilliant in that, and I got to have a sneak peek of it, so I begged Monty, please, I want to see it, and it was so good. So I'm so proud of Monty. And Joe Altieri's in that also. So I just wanted to give Monty a shout out. But that's working with him and people like Mark Pirro, and I worked with recently Harley and Katie Wallen. They're about an hour from Detroit. They're in the Michigan area, but I worked with them last year on Finding Nicole. And they were just wonderful to work with. I've been friends with them for quite a while, and I finally got an opportunity to work with them on that film. And that is slowly going to make its way into some film festivals. So, and I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait to see it, but I heard it was really good. And yeah, so I'm just really fortunate. And my friend Todd Ernest Braley, I can't forget him. I worked with him a few years back. We actually shot it in 2020 on a film called You Like to Draw, with a question mark, like a question. You like to draw.
Yeah.
And that film,
you also wrote that you wrote the story for that as well, didn't you?
Well, I contributed to the story. It's his original story. I added a lot of things to it that he used. So he was very generous in giving me a writing credit. But yeah, I mean, I came up with a chunk of it. But he was wonderful to work with, and we're going to be working together again soon on a film called Shadows of the Night, which we were planning on shooting earlier this year, but it just got pushed back for a few different reasons, and we decided to shoot it in the spring. So next year. So we're going to be shooting it like late spring, early summer of next year. So, but he's also working on another film, and it hasn't been announced yet, but he's announced that he's working on this other film called Where Do We Go From Here? And I saw he shot about a third of it, and I saw a little bit of it, and it's beautiful, beautiful. And I'm actually going to be in it as well. And so he's going to be shooting that probably in the spring before we shoot Shadows of the Night. He's going to finish shooting that one. So I'm really looking forward to working with him. But he's been a really close friend of mine for many years. So and I bring up these people not only because it's been really wonderful working with them just in general and working on these projects that I'm involved with, but also they're just, really wonderful people, people that I've become really close to. I've become very close to Mark Pirro over the years, and Todd Ernest Braley, you know, we're very good friends, and Monty, and oh, and another person I need to bring up is one of my very, very best friends, Michael Haberfellner. Michael and I worked on There's No Such Thing as Zombies, like I think it was over 6 years ago. And it has just come out just recently in the last couple of weeks. There's No Such Thing as Zombies, which is a farce. You know, it's a it's a zombie comedy. I mean, we shot it well over 6 years ago. We shot it back in 2017, and we shot another film, which was a short film called Espresso to Die For, also in 2017 in London with the director Eddie Bemiki. But There's No Such Thing as Zombies has just finally been released, finally. So it's on Amazon, and it's on a few other places, but I know it's on Amazon. Oh, it's on Vimeo. Yeah, it's on Vimeo. So it's on there.
Vimeo.
And yeah, but Michael is one of my dearest friends. He has been for well over 10 years, and so I just wanted to give him a shout out. But yeah, he's like family to me, and I love his family. He lives over in Vienna, and I got to stay with him for a while and go get to hang out with his family, and so cool. So next time I go over, I'll take my husband Eric over to go visit him and his family, when we get the chance. But
yeah,
in the zombie film, in There's No Such Thing as Zombies, I star in it with Lynn Lowry, and Lynn and I have actually had the chance to work together a handful of times. And finally, the first thing we worked on together, There's No Such Thing as Zombies, is finally out. So anyway, but I've been privileged to work with all these wonderful people, as well as Tim O'Hearn and Aaron Bratcher and Jeff Grinnell. I worked on a Western called Showdown in Yesteryear, which won so many awards. I mean, tons and tons of awards. And I was privileged to have won 2 Best Actress awards for Showdown in Yesteryear. And that just came out earlier this year. So I had a few films coming out this year. Yeah, a few. We got There's No Such Thing as Zombies, Showdown in Yesteryear.
That's the time travel Western, isn't it?
Yes. And also Blood Covered Chocolate came out this year. So it's been a good year as far as films coming out.
Oh, definitely been a good year. And then obviously one of your latest, Witches of the Sands, which you also done a bit of writing on. Can't forget this.
Yeah.
A British film.
Yes. My good friend Tony Martin and his lovely lady, who I just love her so much, Lauren Barnett. I do have her last name right, don't I? I'll kill myself if I'm saying her last name wrong. Anyway, they came over. So Tony, of course, is from England, and so Lauren is American. Lauren is American, but she's been over there for several years. So she lives there. She's a resident. And they came out a few months back. I think it was in September. They came out here for Tony's birthday, and Lauren has family up in Northern California where I live. And so they wanted to go see the Winchester Mystery House. So I got to go with them to the Winchester Mystery House, and I got to see my friends from England in person. And Tony and I have been friends for several years, before Lauren was in the picture. But, I love Lauren so much, so I'm so happy for them. But yeah, so Tony, I got hooked up with Tony years ago, back in 2020. He was just starting on Witches of the Sands in 2020. He was filming, and it's so funny. because, well, I shot my scenes with my filmmaker friend, Mark Bonacore, who's lives in Philadelphia. And so I went to Philadelphia, and my friend Mark helped me shoot my scenes for Witches of the Sands there
Yeah.
where he is. And so Mark and I both wrote the scenes that I was like Tony and I came up with the concept, and then Mark and I fleshed it out as far as writing the script for the couple of scenes that I did for Tony's
Yeah.
films. But yeah. I did get a writing credit for that. But I can't wait for Tony. Tony just kept shooting and shooting and shooting, and talk about, every single horror icon there is in this film.
It's full.
So
You've
I
got
can't
Brink
wait
in
to,
there.
yeah, Brink Stevens, Linnea Quigley. Oh God, I can't even name all the people. Just, I
Lloyd
mean,
Kaufman, Lynn
yes,
Lowry.
yeah, Lynn
Yeah,
Lowry, that's
absolutely.
right. She's in it too. Yeah, so he's finally, I think, down to the last scene or a couple of scenes that he needs to shoot so they've been editing it, but yeah, he's finally going to be done shooting. I don't know if it's actually going to be by the end of the year or into next year. So, back in 2020, he had this one concept, but the concept kind of got morphed. And as more and more people jumped on board to be a part of this exciting project, Witches of the Sands, he's even got an animated section. He had an animation artist who did animation, like for these scenes in the film are going to be animated. I mean, it's going to be the most craziest thing anyone's ever seen. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it when it's done, because like I said, he started shooting it in 2020, and I think he isn't going to be finished shooting scenes for it till the beginning of next year. So, 4 years of shooting on this film. But there's no such thing as zombies wins the prize, because we shot that, but we finished shooting it back then too. I mean, it wasn't like he continued to shoot scenes for it for another 5 years, Michael. We shot it. It just they were having
Just took a
difficulties
while to come out.
to do the post production. It took them quite a while to get it completely finished to where it was able to be released. But anyway, so I seem to have a history of getting cut out of films that are big iconic films, and then being in films that take 6 years to come out. or takes 5 years to film.
Yeah, that's very true. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 87 actual credits on IMDb, and 11 films that are either getting worked on, written. That's according to IMDb, anyways, that you've got coming out. So you've got, you've been busy. You're gonna be busy. Is there any other projects you're looking forward to working on?
Well, I'm really very excited. The films that came out this year came out. I was really, really looking forward to the Western coming out, Showdown in Yesteryear, and it came out earlier this year. And I was really excited for Blood Covered Chocolate to come out, and it came out this year. And There's No Such Thing as Zombies finally came out, which I'm ecstatic about. And I'm really looking forward to um, Finding Nicole, produced by Harley and Katie Wallen. Really looking forward to that coming out next year. And that stars some really good people. You got Sean Whalen and Richard Tyson, and this very talented young actress, young lady. Oh gosh, I'm Shantae. There we go.
There we
Shantae
go.
Das. is it Dawson? Oh God, I'm just the worst. I'm the worst. Shantae. Anyway, Shantae. And so I'm looking forward to those. And as far as what to look forward to actually work on or to actually film, I've got Shadows of the Night with Todd Ernest Brayley, and also Where Do We Go From Here, which I'm also in with directed by Tom Ernest Brayley. Oh, and of course can't wait for Witches of the Sands to come out finally, whenever that happens. I don't
Come
know
on,
if it'll
Tony, get
even
it out.
I don't know if it'll be actually, I doubt that it'll actually be released next year because he still has more shooting to do. Then they have to do the whole post production. But what I forgot to mention was my very good friend John Rain, who's become like family to me and my husband. We're finally going to be shooting Vampire Penance next year. And this film I've been attached to for 3.5 years. This film has gone through so many ups and downs as far as it, being made to get it to the point of where we're
Yeah.
actually doing it. I mean, it's been a roller coaster with this film. It was so close to like having the financing to get it made so many times over the past 3.5 years. It's just, ridiculous. But we're finally going to start shooting next year. So that one I'm very excited about because I play Shotgun, who's quite a character. And it's a trilogy. So I am going to be in all 3 films. And it's supposed to be pretty big, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I
And
look forward to seeing that.
there's been mention of some really interesting developments, which if they do happen, are going to be fantastic, like marketing type things. So yeah, I can't talk too much about it because there's a lot of things surrounding that film that are, I just can't talk about it yet. Some things that may or may not happen with that film, but yeah, that is a big one. That's going to be a big one. So that's supposed to be happening next year. So this year, as far as actually filming projects, has been a slow year because all the projects I was supposed to work on, filming wise, has been pushed back. Everything, and it has nothing to do with the strike. The strike didn't affect anything that I'm personally working on.
Yeah.
So it wasn't because of that. It's just other complications. So next year should be like nice and busy, which I'll be so happy to, be getting back to actual work. That'll be nice.
Well, I mean, if there's anything you ever want to come back and talk about, you're always very welcome.
Well, thank you so much. Paul, it's been such a pleasure. And we had so much fun just chatting the other day. Last week we were chatting, and I'm
We did.
so happy to have met you and can call you my friend now. And, it's just been so much fun talking about. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I think, something, I think we kind of covered it, just about every film that we mentioned the other day.
Yeah.
So, that was all good. It's been fantastic talking to you. And we've got to hear some fabulous stories, and you've had such a varied career. And, you've managed to work with so many great directors,
Yeah.
right through your career, and hope, and, continue to as well. And what a career you've had. As I say, 87 credits on IMDb, and 11 more films to come. So there's
Yeah,
no holding you back.
there's other films that are in development that I don't know when they'll happen. I'm attached to a few other things that like the Time Girl films. There's a few films that are Time Girl written and produced by Mikey Tiffany, who's become a good friend of mine. There's some other films that are part of the Time Girl universe.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's 39 Creepy Street. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, hang on, let me show you something real quick. So yeah, see, here we are, 39 Creepville Street. So the film that I'm attached to is 39 Creepville Street. I don't know. I think this might be backwards, but that's okay. So it's written by Doug Rodden. Doug Rodden is the writer and director and producer of 39 Creepville Street. And then for this book, this is a book that they're putting out called Labor Pains. And it's also written also with Christopher Pasquarelli, Christopher Pasquarelli, I think. Anyway, so they put this book out. They're trying to raise funds for the 39 Creepville Street, the film. So I'm attached to that. In fact, with this film, I'm actually playing Franny Cripps. So I'm the matriarch of the family. I'm like ancient. I'm going to be like 80 or 90 years old. So, well, not 80.
Oh, fantastic.
No, more like 90. I'm going to be like really, really old. So they're going to do me all up with old age makeup, and I'm going to play this matriarch of the family, a very stern lady with a twisted sense of humor. So I'm praying for them that they are able to make this film, because that's going to be a lot of fun. But the thing that the films I'm for sure working on next year are Shadows of the Night, which is horror. Where Do We Go From Here, which is a drama, a heartfelt drama, both with Todd Ernest Brayley, and Vampire Penance with my dear friend John Rain, who is having a medical procedure today to check out his ticker. So I'm praying that everything goes well for him today, and hopefully I'll get to talk to him tomorrow and make sure that he got flying colors.
And get well soon.
Yes,
fingers crossed and get well soon.
Praying for my friend John. But yeah, that's what I got going on. But thank you for being so interested in my career. And I know you're a big fan, especially of the early stuff, the 80s and 90s type films, but
that was my era coming up as a young boy in them video shops. Never away from a video shop back then. I wasn't an out and out geek nerd. I did go out and I did have girlfriends and things like that. But I was a geek. I was a nerd.
Well, I'm a nerd. Well, in The Invisible Maniac, I'm Betty, the nerd.
That's very much true.
And I really wasn't. No acting required. I just had to be myself.
And you were fabulous in it, and you looked fantastic in it as well.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, I'm so happy that I have people that have loved these films that I've been in. My early works, my early career stuff.
So we've kind of went through, the major high points of your career, and I've got to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And as you say, we're now friends, which is,
yes,
a great honour to be a friend of the legendary Debra Lamb. And you've been in so many cracking cult films. And it's as I say, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. And I hope you've enjoyed being on the show yourself.
Oh, yes. It was a pleasure. It was my absolute pleasure. I'm so happy that, I could meet you and we could, have fun talking about these films. And a big shout out and thanks to our mutual friend, Steve Joyner. for
That's it. If it wasn't
for
Steve
hooking us
putting us in
up.
touch with each other, that's it. We've got
Yes.
a big shout out to Steve, you're a legend.
Yes.
And thanks for putting me and the lovely Deborah together, because it's been an absolute pleasure. And
And
thank you so much.
a shout out to our mutual friend Eddie Deason too.
Yes, Eddie, who again is
Hi
a lovely,
Eddie.
lovely bloke.
Yeah, I
Hello,
love
Eddie.
Eddie.
Hope you're well.
Hello
Yeah,
Eddie.
he's great. He's
But
such a
I
good
had
guy.
so much fun chatting with you today, and let's definitely do this again.
Excellent. You just let me know when you chat again, and we'll do it.
Oh, we forgot one thing. We forgot one thing. What is it, the timing of this interview? We're
We
doing
have.
this interview now because,
It's your birthday next week.
well,
And happy birthday. When this airs, which I'm going to put it
it will
out.
be my birthday week. When this airs, it'll be my birthday week.
That's right. So I've got to say a big happy birthday to you for next week.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I
I totally forgot.
same here. I forgot, and this was the reason we were doing it this week. But there we go. Brain farts all round.
Thank you. Thank you, darling.
But no, thank you so much. Happy birthday to you. And again, I hope we can chat again soon. And we'll definitely have to keep in touch on Facebook and things as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And when you have this available to put on YouTube, then everybody can see us on YouTube.
That's right. It'll be on my YouTube channel next week sometime. So I'll say good night. God bless. Thank you all. And thank you again, Deborah. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, darling. Mwah. Thank you so much. Bye now.
Bye.